Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Tobias.
Tobias. How was your weekend?
My weekend was fucking amazing. I
Nice.
went to Haunted America for the fourth or fifth time. We started going in 2018, and we missed the year everyone lost to COVID, and we missed last year. But otherwise, I think we've gone every year. So what was that? 2018, 19, 21. 22 and 20. Okay, so this was my fifth time going. And
Wow.
it was great. It was absolutely fucking fantastic. It's one of my favorite events. Possibly, I'll just say it. It is my favorite event to go to every year because it is big. There are a lot of attendees. There are a lot of speakers and presenters. It's about a day and a half. Really, if you're attending it, it's more like 3 or 4 days because they spread out different events and stuff. But the time I'm down there is usually just during the actual like conference itself. So Friday afternoon through Saturday afternoon. But it's great. The crowd down there is fucking fantastic. They are interested, they are aware, they are open minded. It's just everything you could want. And they read. They all fucking read, which I don't have to tell you is so goddamn rare. But it gives me hope for this field, to go down there as much as I can and see these folks. Just knowing that there are still people out there reading books, right, is very heartening. So, but this year, just like every other year I've been, was just what I needed. I got to see a lot of friends, some people who hadn't been down there before. Like I didn't know that Chad Lewis and David Weatherly hadn't been yet. I just assumed as long as they had been doing this that they would have been to Haunted America, but no, they were down there for the first time. And so I hung out with them quite a bit. Chad, I already knew, like we were already friends, but I had never met David in person, and so that was great to be able to hang out with them. And boy, he is just a font of wisdom. I got it, and I am being completely serious. Like I started talking to him a little bit about Mothman and stuff, considering the project that I'm working on right now. And boy, he knows a lot, and he knows some people who were there, and I was just kind of surprised by how valuable of a resource he turned out to be. Like not too surprised. I mean, it's David fucking Weatherly, right? But that guy is just everywhere. Like he just knows it all and or has done it all, seen it all in terms of the paranormal field. And so that was really cool experience to be able to hang out with him. And boy, like my friends, Alex Matsuo was there, and Amanda Woomer, Courtney Block, Carrie Bergen, all of these people that I just love, and I just love spending time with. Absolutely, just the best damn way I could imagine spending any weekend. It's all positive vibes down there. None of the bullshit that we have to put up with in this field. No weird jealousy or bitterness or any of that shit. It's just people who honestly care about paranormal phenomena and the answers to life's mysteries coming together to share ideas, to share their passion, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Yeah, it was just great.
That's awesome. It's always, I've said it before, very exciting to meet somebody that you haven't yet, that's like been on your radar. And the longer and longer you stay in this field, like the less and less that opportunity arises. So
Right.
that's a breath of fresh air right there. Very exciting. And then it sounds like some great people too, except for Chad Lewis. He's suspicious, but everybody else sounds neat.
Local cryptid Chad Lewis, he was
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah,
that guy. Yeah, he doesn't
right.
wear hats.
He doesn't.
It's weird.
What is
But
that? You
anyway,
can't trust a man who won't wear a hat. Now,
yeah.
now David Weatherly, that guy knows how to wear a hat.
See, you're
Yeah,
right. I
right.
have seen him. He does wear hats.
Yeah,
So
we can bond over that immediately. Just both wearing cool hats. Are you wearing a black leather hat? Shit, me too. Let's be friends.
that's how you know.
Right? Totally.
Very cool. Yeah, you've said a lot of good things about Haunted America. And I mean, I want to go there.
Right. I almost fucking forgot because we were talking about this before. And Troy Taylor, of course, the man of the hour who puts the whole damn thing together with a lot of help from a wonderful community down there as well. All of the like the volunteers and like the staff and everything are always fucking great. So he's built this just amazing community down there of people. But yeah, I mean, Troy has been a really good friend to me for several years now since we started going. And, in some ways, like he's been almost a sort of mentor figure in some ways, uh, insofar as kind of teaching me about this field, showing me the ropes, especially when it comes to certain aspects of like book publishing and things like that. And yeah, he's stood by me through a lot, and I've always really appreciated that. And I think it really speaks to his discernment because I am fabulous. So
He's got great judge of character.
he does. He is a fantastic judge of character for choosing me as a friend.
That's true.
So
That's
yeah,
that's
but
a
no,
good point.
he's absolutely great. He's written about 1 million books. So just buy any of them. Don't buy them all at once, or else you're not going to be able to afford your rent or whatever. But space it out and try to read through all of them.
Yeah, that would cost at least 1 month of rent. You're right. Yeah, when you're trying to like introduce yourself to people in this field, you always try to like find an excuse to talk to them. I'm just gonna like message Troy Taylor and be like, Tobias says that you're just wonderful,
Do it.
and
I don't think he'd care. I think I mean, I would like it if somebody messaged me that.
right, I will both make his day. And then he'll be like, "That's the greatest compliment I've ever received in my entire life. Do you want to come to Haunted America next year?" And then I'll say
Right?
yes.
Oh,
So
Tobias said that. Well, that changes everything.
So that's my master plan. So I'll be there next year, everybody. There's not a date yet, but
Yeah. Right.
we'll get it for you. No, that sounds like that does. It sounds like a really great weekend.
It really, really was. Yeah,
You're
I can't
jealous.
say enough nice things about it. Now, I do have a really weird thing that happened while I was down there to talk about, but I'm going to save it for the news because that's my only news. I didn't have time to research any articles or anything.
Wow, I'm just
Yeah, well, I
kidding.
was really busy getting shit together for Haunted America. It's like a whole thing.
Yeah, it is right. That's what I hear. Um, no, that's okay. Yeah, we can save it for the news. My weekend was not nearly as riveting. I went and saw the Garfield movie with my daughter. So
Ooh,
clearly way cooler than Haunted America, right?
I
No,
mean, I wish you would have went first, so I would have known to lie and make my weekend sound
right.
cooler.
I know, right? Uh, no, it's just just a slow weekend. Kids movies nowadays. I am a fan of cartoons and silliness and childlike wonder. I don't think I've ever really like watched a children's film in recent years and been like, man, this is terrible. And people are fucking weird that do that. I think like adults. I mean,
Oh yeah,
that's strange to me because like I'm not a child, so my opinion doesn't really matter. And I'm not viewing it through a child's perspective. But my kid really liked it, so it must have been the best movie ever. So I'm gonna base it off of what she thinks. But other than that, I mean, I've been getting ready for Monster Fest, which is this weekend, and yeah, Canton, Ohio. If you guys don't know, there's no way that you don't know. There's no way you listen to the show you don't know what Monster Fest is. Monster Fest 2, as a matter of fact. So, um, come see me there, and that's it. Really, that's all I've got for my weekend.
that'll be fun though. Like Monster
Oh
Fest
yeah,
is a big deal. Yeah, I've done some
yeah.
work with small town monsters, and I know and like those guys, and they just continue getting more popular. So I have to imagine like it's a pretty big event, you know?
It is a lot of fun. As far as like the people, like when I go, like I'll be honest, I probably might break even money wise if I'm lucky. I just feel like there is a lot of vendors there, and sometimes when you have big events that have a lot of vendors, it's not necessarily that the stuff that you're selling sucks. It's just that people only have so much money,
Yeah,
and I get it. And there's a lot of really awesome people that are selling way cooler things than I am, right? So I understand. But I go this event, I can say specifically, I'm going there to hang out with my friends. Like that's
sure.
it, and that's exactly what I look forward to. I think that it's probably the most people that I consider true friends in the community all meeting up at one event, and it's perfect for that. So I think it's great. The venue that they're having it at has a bar. And the venue is also the hotel that we're staying at. So, like, the bar and my room are all in one. Like, that's important to me. And I'm just going to have a great time. So,
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm hoping to make it out there one of these days. I didn't go last year, and I can't go this year, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe they'll invite me out at some point.
well, three times a charm. I mean, if they had any sense about them, they would. So,
TV's Tobias Wayland. Yeah, it seems like a slam dunk, but
yeah, we'll see. Yeah, no, you should definitely go. I mean, I'll go every year no matter what because it's in Ohio. It's easy to get to, and like I said,
right.
it's like the converging of everybody that I know. So whether I participate or not, this is probably the only event that I will be at this year where I'm not speaking or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, just because I enjoy it that much. So, I mean, that's a testament to how much anybody who's listening should go and just enjoy it. Have a good time. It's a good time. It's worth it.
Fair. I actually wish we had more monster stuff here because I feel like um, most of what exists, like, well, first of all, there really aren't very many conferences by me at all. Like, there are basically none, maybe one or two, but none of them are all that big. Um, but what exists, and even like going all the way down into Illinois and neighboring states, it's all like strictly ghost stuff. It's pretty much all ghost stuff,
Yeah.
which is fine. But I don't. And okay, I do ghost stuff. I have gone on investigations into haunted places. I will continue to do so, but I'm not necessarily known for ghost stuff. I think if people know me at all, it's probably for Mothman or monster stuff or UFOs or something similar. And so sometimes, not at Haunted America, that's always been great, but like sometimes I kind of feel like the black sheep, and there will be people, even if they're there to spend money, they want to spend it on specifically ghost things,
Yeah.
and nothing else. Not your weird Mothman UFO fucking nonsense, So it would be cool if there was more like UFO or monster conferences around here, or just like a high strangeness event or like a Fortean event where it was everything. But the problem with that is nobody knows what the fuck those are.
Right.
So good luck getting anybody to go. So
I think people will admit they don't know what 40 and means, but what makes me laugh is when you say high strangeness and they just assume that it's like a quirky thing you just came up with on the spot. Like they don't actually know that like it means something.
I tell people I made it up.
You should.
Yep.
Because they're gonna look into it to say that you didn't.
No, I say, yeah, you can tell your friends you were there when world famous Fortean author Tobias Whalen coined the term high strangeness. You want me to sign this book for you? I'll put it in there.
Right, high strangeness right on it. Yeah. Right, because there's that term alone is just, but it can slip under the radar, right? 40 and they can't get away with. They're not like,
Right.
they can't just assume what it means. High strangeness, they're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. Well, and they do. Let me be fair here. They do know what it is. They just don't. They don't know the connection, and it's fine.
Sure.
That's just me being, well, pretentious. I'll be honest.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're in good company at least. But yeah, and that's the thing about these paranormal conferences is that yeah, normally they're pretty segregated. You'll have a ghost one or a
Mhm.
UFO one or a monster one, but there's not a lot of overlap. Um,
Right.
I just happened to have started going to haunted America years ago, and like I said, we do ghost stuff. It's not our main focus because our main
Mhm.
focus is everything. We don't have a one particular area that we specialize in. I just happened to go before I had written any books or anything, and then this is before the Lake Michigan Mothman investigation even fucking started. Like before. I mean, before it was like something that had really taken off, something that I was really known for, right? And so it just so happened that when I started writing books, the first one was a Mothman book, and then from there, I've got some ghost stuff in my other two books, but it just doesn't happen to be the thing that I ended up being known for. It's not the
Yeah.
thing that gets me on TV or in documentaries or whatever. It should, because I have lots of really interesting opinions on ghosts, but people want to talk about Mothman.
Yeah, I no, I get it. I'm not a ghost gal either, I guess. A ghost bro. I don't know what they're called. A ghost person. I mean, it's not that I haven't been to haunted places and I haven't looked into hauntings and I haven't done all the things. I've done all the things. It just doesn't really interest me anymore unless it's like crazy. Unless it's like really fucking out there, with some good evidence, some good hardcore evidence. I'm just not interested. But I got into this. I was into cryptids. Like that was my thing. Like I wanted to be a cryptozoologist when I was a kid, and now look at me. Mostly UFOs. you know, you don't really get to. You don't pick that Mothman life. Let me tell you, you don't pick that. It picks you.
I hear you. No, I got into this because of UFOs, and now I'm, mostly monsters.
Right.
So just is what it is.
We'll see what it
It's
is in
all
another
fucking
10 years.
connected.
It
Yeah.
right, exactly. That's the secret. That's what you learn down the line. You're like, well, what's it matter? Okay, there's a word for this. Great, Fortean.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, nobody else gets the connection. Great. Okay. Anyway, no, I agree. I feel like the monster festivals in particular. Like I find that you get the most open minded group of people because you do get people that are interested in just things that are fucking weird. That's why Frogman I think is so great.
Yeah,
You
that was
know,
great.
yeah, I mean, you get some diverse people that are you get people that are there just because it's fun, right? They just enjoy, the spectacle of it all. You got people there that really fucking believe that there is a bipedal frog humanoid out there somewhere. You got people that don't believe in frogman at all, but man, they love ghosts, so they're there.
Sure.
Um, I feel like those obscure monster festivals really bring out the best in everyone, but like, I get it when you have something that's like strictly ghost. The first lecture I ever gave was at a paranormal convention, and I was like, man, I don't fit in here. But they wanted me to talk about the Mothman, so I gave them Mothman. What are you gonna do?
I completely understand. Like I spent the first several years of my career, if I was asked to do a presentation, I would just do it on the winged humanoid sightings that I was currently covering.
Yeah.
And that seemed like most of what people wanted to hear about. And since then I've got some other presentations that I've put together, but that still remains the most popular. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, right, depending on what you're there for, you definitely will cater it to the masses. You get better at it as you go on.
yeah,
But anyway, you want to talk about some news?
sure.
I got two newses.
Oh,
And so here we go. Let's start with the first one here. Another monolith popped up in Las Vegas
fake.
and has since been removed. Um, I didn't really bother putting like the details of like where it was on some hiking trail. I think
They're
it was like
just
a
fucking
search.
art. They're art installations.
Right. It was like a search and rescue team that found it. It wasn't. It wasn't a rectangle. It was a triangle.
They're all
But
triangles now.
are they all triangles?
I think so.
I thought the very first one,
The
maybe
very
it was a
first one might
triangle,
have been, well, the most
like a
recent ones have been triangles.
boxy shaped, well, because it's cheaper to make.
Yeah,
Um,
it's easier too.
it's just it was a fucking triangle, a 3D triangle made out of sheet metal that was cemented
Yeah.
into the ground there.
Yeah, people
What
just
do you,
fucking like solder that shit together. It's not even hard. Anybody could do it in
right.
their garage.
Right. I mean, what do you want me to say? But I will tell you that here's the thing. We had that story about the monolith popping up in that other country recently. It was kind of like a
Mhm.
month or two ago, and nobody really talked about that one. And all of a sudden, this Las Vegas one pops up, and everybody's talking about it. I'm just gonna say here, maybe it was one of our listeners that put that monolith in Vegas
Oh,
because like monoliths weren't on the radar, right? It was
maybe.
nobody cared about it. So I think it was one of you guys that did it.
Write
Let
in. Let us
Right.
know.
Let us know. Any way you want to. Social media at Wednesdays Talk, Facebook on Wednesdays We Talk Beard, on Wednesdays We Talk Beard at gmail.com, or go to the singular40n.com website and fill out a form.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I think happened. I think we're responsible for this. And I mean, not financially responsible, of course.
Right.
I refuse all financial responsibility in regards to this monolith. But
Yeah, we're not liable for it.
no, no, not at all. Um, but I'm just saying, I think that that's a possibility because now here we go again, right? Let's see if any more pop up again. Is there anything to it? Absolutely not. They're just They're not even art installations at this point. It's just fucking trolling in real life.
It's just littering, basically.
Right.
Just littering with extra steps.
You're just littering, and anybody that thinks that there is some, most people I guess are saying extraterrestrial origin to these monoliths. No, there's not.
Yeah, most of them that we've seen so far, they're are clearly man-made. Like you can look at it. It would be one thing if there was no discernible way that the pieces were connected or the material was like unearthly in some way, but none of that is true. Like they very clearly were made by people. Like some of them will be like riveted together, or
Yeah,
they're just kind of like spot welded together. It's super fucking obvious, easy shit that most people could learn how to do in like a fucking day.
yeah, yep.
It's come
Well,
on.
and that's likely how they're making them. I mean, that's I guess one thing. Well, how are they doing? How are they carrying that big old thing? Well, they're taking it up in the parts. They're building them on the spot, and that's that. It's very quick to throw together. That's probably why most of them are triangles. It's
Yeah.
because it's quick. And that's that. Unless it's made of that shit that Bob Lazar was talking about, I'm just not interested.
Well, honestly, like even if you made it somewhere else, like if you made it at your house, if it's fucking hollow and we're talking about
Yeah,
super thin sheets of metal that you made to create it, it's not heavy, guys.
it's
It's
just
it'd
bulky.
be
Yeah,
yeah, it'd be super easy to carry around if you especially if you had a partner to help you. Like this isn't
very true.
fucking rocket surgery, people.
Right. I'm so glad you said rocket surgery.
Me too.
Because every time I say that, people are like, it's rocket science," and I'm like, "Oh my god, the
Yeah,
point."
you just made yourself look so stupid by
I like to play
correcting me.
dumb. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about? There are rocket surgeons out there. Have you ever heard of
Yeah.
NASA?
Right? What if that rocket has cancer? Would you just let it die? You're a monster.
Double down on it. Fucking rocket surgery, man.
Right? Do you know how much radiation those rockets are exposed to? They definitely get cancer.
My dad was a rocket surgeon.
My dad was a rocket. How dare you?
Yep. So anyway, there's that one. On to the next one that is just as cliche, but a little bit more exciting to me. It's another crying Virgin Mary statue.
I do love a good religious miracle,
Yeah,
but
me too. Me too. So the town, it's of course in Mexico. I think it's Morelia. I don't know. I'm not Mexican. We're going to go with Morelia, Mexico. A gentleman by the name of Don Miguel has his Virgin Mary statue at his home, and his teenage son noticed on June 2nd that there was a strange blood-like substance coming from the eyeballs.
oh,
And of course, they take to the local media, and people start swarming their house to see the statue cry. And
naturally.
of course, and eventually, the statue did end up crying again, except this time it was more of a clear, watery substance rather than the bloody substance from before. And they were lucky enough to have well, guess what? A Catholic priest there who was able to take samples of the of the tears, and they're going to test them and see what it is.
I thought they weren't doing that anymore.
That's exactly why I brought this up. Is because what the fuck, man? I thought y'all said that this wasn't your thing anymore, unless it was
Oh,
Adam in disguise.
might have been. I'm getting some real mixed signals from the Vatican here. It's doesn't add up. Oh, and by the way, I don't know what the name of the town is, but if it has two L's together, I think that's pronounced with like a Y sound. So it'd be like Morea.
It doesn't. It's Morelia.
Oh, then yeah, probably Morelia. Let's just go
Morelia,
with that.
yeah.
All
Sure.
right.
I'm a white person, but thank you for the lesson. I'll remember that next
Yeah,
time
no,
that.
here I am just mansplaining basic shit to you.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so nice. I appreciate it. But yeah, no, I'm upset. Yeah, the Vatican wasn't supposed to be doing stuff like this. Apparently, they will if there's money involved. If there's money to be made, I
Right.
think.
Are they selling
Um,
tickets?
well, probably. Why wouldn't they? I wouldn't just
I
let
don't
people in
know.
my house for nothing.
Not even a
Just
divine
saying. Yeah,
manifestation of the Virgin Mary?
fuck that. $10 a
Yeah, I
head.
guess. Fair.
$10 a head. 20. You can take a picture with it.
Yeah, just like Jesus would do.
Of course. That's why the statue started crying again.
Right.
No, I love these crying statues. There usually is some type of explanation, so they say. Um, I I don't know enough about them. I haven't like done the deep dive into them. I think it's just because sometimes in this field, like it is my job to debunk things. So not necessarily to be an asshole, but like most of the time, that's what you end up doing is debunking stuff.
You have
I,
to.
I think stuff like this, I kind of let the mystery stay alive. Sometimes you got things you're like, I'll let it slide because you gotta have something.
Right. But it's
And
true though. Like if we don't explain the things that we can, then why would anybody believe us about the things we can't? You
yeah,
have to explain things if you have enough information to explain them.
yeah. I mean, I've ruined so much stuff for myself, right? I'm gonna let myself have crying statues for now. Um,
Okay. Do you want me to ruin this one? Let me think. All right.
if you have an explanation,
Well,
let's hear it.
okay. I think with a lot of these statues, you'd have to see where it's being kept, but I think condensation could be blamed for a lot of this. Now, you say that the tears at first were supposed to be bloody, but then they were
Hmm.
clear later. So,
Yes.
what if there was, this is in Mexico, and I don't know what part of Mexico, but what if there was, there's a lot of like clay in the soil down there, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Like sandy clay. So that comes up in dust because it's so dry, and that dust settles on shit like say statues, and the dust is actually pretty red. So if you had condensation or something that was running down a statue, it would collect this dust, and it would probably turn that water, that moisture, red. At least at first, until the dust was kind of washed off, and then it would be clear.
But why is it only coming out of the eyes?
It just seems like it's only coming out of the eyes. People
Just an
have
illusion.
like selective like perception.
I mean, if it were coming out of the ears, I'd be like, well, maybe. It just depends. Yeah, I think that that's a pretty good explanation. I would like to see because, like, in the news article that I read about it, which was from a Mexican publication,
Yeah.
so a lot of the translation is just bad, and but I've never seen a follow up to the testing of these tiers, and I've seen other claims that they're testing the tiers.
Of course.
Well, right, because it ends up being, sandy clay water or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it ends up being something natural. But I would be curious to see, not just assume that it's because it's nothing. You
Yeah.
know,
No, I agree. So yeah, I am not going to be a total dickhead today. I am also open minded and interested in paranormal possibilities. So if there is a if there's a chance that this is something weird, of course I want to see the results, but we never do. And so at a certain point, the cynic just takes over, and you have to assume it's because there's nothing sensational at all about the results, and it's just fucking dirty water or whatever.
Well, and that in and of itself is not necessarily paranormal, but definitely conspiratorial. So then, why is the Vatican hiding the results of these testing? Is it because they want people to believe? I wonder.
Well, I mean, is it that the Vatican is hiding it, or is it that the media doesn't follow up because they don't want to know the answer because that's not going to generate clicks?
There. That's another one, right? So, I mean, there's something weird going on here. Either way.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know. I'd kind of, like I said, I kind of be curious to do a follow up and see what these things end up really being composed of. What are the tears made of? How do they taste? Is my other question.
That's
Are
true.
they
I would lick a tear right off the Virgin Mary statue's face,
right off her eyeball?
given the opportunity.
You'd be blessed forever.
Maybe
you
blessed
wouldn't.
or cursed, one of those.
You would either need or never need rocket surgery. That's for
Right.
sure.
I'm gonna start selling cures for rocket surgery.
That's a good idea. Cures
Yeah.
for the surgery itself. Yeah, good idea.
Right.
Let's
If
do
you
that.
drink this bottle of Virgin Mary tears, you will never need rocket surgery.
Well, like I said, I am going with my other theory that the priest himself was actually Adam. So I guess we'll have to follow up with him and see what the findings were of the Virgin Mary tears.
Fair.
Because he's the guy for the job now. I thought,
I
I don't
think
know.
yeah, we nominated him.
Right. So I mean, and we're the all-knowing authority of the Vatican. So
Yeah,
let's
it's like the Vatican and then us.
right.
And then everybody else. Like that's the hierarchy.
So we'll reach out to him. We'll get a statement from Adam. We'll give it to you guys next week. Can't
I'm
wait.
really gonna do that now. Like we're gonna have to get an
Yeah.
actual statement.
Yeah, do it. Be my guest. So, anyway, that's my news for the week. Twice, what do you got for us?
Oh boy. So, I was pretty busy getting ready for Haunted America. So I didn't do a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time to spend researching articles, but I did have something fucking wild happen while I was at Haunted America. So yes, check this out. Our exhibit this year was this interactive exhibit where people could come and check out like different kinds of paranormal equipment, be it technological or metaphysical, whatever, and test it out. And so what the hell is the name of it? I had some fancy name. It was it was the Singular Fortean Society's Otherworldly Implements and Monster Hunting Methodology. That's right.
Nice.
Yes, that was and I wrote it, and I have a hard time fucking remembering it. So who knows if anybody else actually managed to. But anyway, so as part of that, of course, like we had brought all kinds of different ghost hunting gear. We brought a bunch of different like cryptid and even UFO stuff. Like I brought my Geiger counter and UV flashlight and all that shit, which was all fun and people liked seeing how it all worked. But a particular interest was some of our ghost hunting equipment because, of course, we're at fucking Haunted America, right? And so this woman came up and asked about the Estes method equipment specifically. So it turned out that she is an author and she's writing an urban fantasy novel. And so she wanted to do some research into the Estes method for her novel. Basically, like, hey, I want to know how this works so I can write about it because she's got some characters who like have this guardian angel, and she's like, well, would this work in my novel as a way for them to communicate, and then how would that work, and whatever. And I was like, well, do you want to try it? Like you want to just try it out? And she was like, seriously? And yeah, fuck yeah, why not? And so I told her that was on Friday. I told her to come back on Saturday, like midday, and she did, and I set everything up, and I didn't expect anything to happen, right? Because we're in a busy vendor hall, at a fucking conference. So I just figured, this would at least give her an idea of what it was like to be deprived of your main senses
Sure.
and, and listen to the SB7 as it cycles through the stations and whatever. So, she's sitting there and I explain everything to her. Of course, I tell her, this is what's going to happen. You're going to put on the blindfolds. You're going to put on the headphones. I showed her the spirit box we were using. Said, this is what you should be hearing. It's going to cycle through these FM stations at such and such a speed. And when you hear anything at all, even if it doesn't make sense, because it shouldn't make sense to you, just say it. Just say it. And so uh, we sit there with her for probably close to 10 minutes, and she doesn't really say anything. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to call it. She's not really saying anything. It was her first time, and she said that she had sort of a hard time making anything out. And I think what happens if somebody isn't familiar with spirit boxes in general, and then maybe they try to do something like the Estes method in particular, they can be overwhelmed, and they second guess themselves, and so they just kind of sit there and they don't know what to say, even if they are hearing something. And and
Sure.
and so the only thing that she said was, she said, "I thought I heard Michael." And I was like, okay, good to know. Well, turns out like other people had seen this, and so they wanted to participate. So this other lady comes up and she's like, "Can I try it?" And I was like, "Fuck yeah, I got nothing better to do." And so she had never tried it before either. And yeah, I once again explained how everything was going to work, got her all set up, and the first thing she says, first fucking words out of her mouth, is Michael, like right away.
Hmm.
And yeah, so this goes on for a while, and we kept hearing things like, basically, long story short, is this lady started talking about how basically, like, there was this guy Michael. He was a younger guy, like 18, had died, um, but had a baby and wanted to confess something. Like, he felt guilty about something, and so that went on for, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, and then she was done. So then we let somebody else try it, and none of these people have spoken to each other, and we ended up having like 6 different people come up and end up doing this, and across all 6 there was this consistent narrative of this guy named Michael, and he had passed away. He felt guilty. There's a baby involved, and he wanted to confess something. And so our friend Carrie Bergen, of Ephemera Obscura, had come over. Actually, try to remember, she had either come over, or one of the people that had done the Estes method had actually gone over to her to see if maybe, because she has a lot of old and weird items that she has repurposed for stuff. And so this person thought, well, maybe there's something attached to one of these items, which I didn't know how to feel about, but I'm open minded. So I was like, I don't know, maybe, sure, why not? And she goes and talks to Carrie, and so Carrie had used some psychometry methods, and her pendulum, and thought that she had learned something about this Michael character, something to do with him having a particular focus on this like Catholic devotional prayer book from 1956 that she happened to have with her, um, and and that he thought that he was stuck in this sort of limbo state, right, because of his parents' religious faith. Like he's being punished for committing suicide, basically. And I know that sounds bananas, but and without like going through and reading a transcript of everything that happened, you're just gonna have to trust me on this one. That all fucking lines up, right? Like, it all lines up. And she wasn't there for any of these previous sessions, right? She wasn't there for any of them. And so I'm like, well, fuck, that all lines up. And so we have Carrie do it. Like, she's the next Estes method recipient, the next volunteer. And through her, like, I find myself talking to this spirit, basically, and at this point, I thought we had figured out, basically, that this was a younger man who had killed himself and felt guilty because he left a baby behind.
Hmm.
And so I'm sitting there and I'm trying to convince him, and he thinks that he's in limbo as some sort of religious punishment, right? And so I'm trying to convince him that it's his guilt that's keeping him there and nothing else. Like he needs to forgive himself so he can move on. And that goes on for some time, and we kind of go like back and forth, and he's resistant at first, and then um we just hear, and then Carrie just says thank you, like, at like once I've gone through the whole thing again, and that was it. Then it was just over. And when she took the headphones off, she said that she had heard laughter just prior to that thank you. But from her perspective, we weren't having a conversation. She was hearing random words and just saying them, you
Right.
know. But it all synced up. I ask a question and there's her response, and it makes sense. And
Very
this
cool.
was, this was everybody that sat down to fucking do this. And I recorded it all, so I gotta go through my audio and see if the audio is usable. First of all, I was using a new voice recorder, and we're in a crowded vendor hall, so I'm hoping that its noise filter managed to work reasonably well, so
Mhm.
I can at least kind of hear what people are saying. But yeah, I got to tell you, I think anybody who listens to this show knows that I am not somebody easily convinced of stuff like this.
You?
Um, yeah, I know, right? Not by a fucking mile, but like it gives me chills just to even think about it right now. Just talking about it, because this was as fucking real as anything I've ever experienced. Well, oh shit, I almost forgot to mention. So one of the people that we had used as part of the Estes method experiments said she was a psychic medium, which is what it is. I don't.
Sure.
I think that like the vast. Well, I'm just saying. She was super nice, and I have no reason not to believe her. So, sure. I think a lot of famous mediums are just frauds. Just con artists. But I'm not saying that this lady was. I think that it's entirely possible that she experiences parapsychological phenomena. I think a lot of people, if not most people, experience parapsychological phenomena at some point in their lives. The thing I go back and forth about is how controllable it is.
I
But
agree. Yes.
yeah, right. But anyway, so she was like, "Hey, I'm a medium," and then she was there for when we were, or when I was talking to Carrie, and as soon as that thank you hits, she was just like, "I just felt this energy, like all of this pent up energy, just dissipate, just leave." So take
Hmm.
that for what you will. But I got to tell you, from my perspective, what it seemed like happened that day was somehow, with the help of a lot of people around me, I convinced this trapped spirit to move on. And that was fucking powerful. And why I go to Haunted America, frankly. Like where else is that going to fucking happen?
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I think that sounds pretty great. How did you? I mean, so doing it this way, because you guys don't usually have like this is the first time you've had an exhibit like this, right? You usually, you just have the books or whatever, maybe some things
Right.
here and there. Um, Having that experience with something like that, and then having like this exhibit, are you open to doing that again in the future?
Yeah, I think that like um we would bring this back totally. Like well, how this came about in the first place was when Troy had reached out to us, and he was like, "Hey, obviously I want to have you guys back to Haunted America, but what can I have you do?" You know,
Sure.
um, because I actually spoke at Dead of Winter this
Hmm.
this year, and it's unusual for somebody to speak at both, obviously, because you want a different lineup. Um, you know, and so we were kind of brainstorming, and he's like, "What about some kind of museum?" And I'm like, everybody's doing fucking museums now, and I don't really have like a bunch of stuff that I think would belong in a museum. But I was like, you know what I do have? Years and years of fucking weird ass paranormal equipment that we have just accumulated because I like it, and I'll get it if I think it's useful. I'm not like a, oh man, I gotta have like the latest, I don't know, fucking whatever the latest weird shit people see on reality TV is that is
Sure.
probably made up or whatever. Like I'm not one of those, but I am somebody who's like, well, if I think something's going to be useful, and I want to have that thing, and so like, and especially if it's weird, So I collect stuff like troll crosses and pendulums and dowsing rods and Ouija boards and all of that stuff. And then I've got a thermal camera and a fucking body cam that records an IR and Geiger counter and my UV flashlight and all of this other technological stuff too, right? And so I was like, well, what if I brought that? It could be like an interactive exhibit for people who have always wondered how this stuff works and wants to try it out. Because something we take for granted is that most people, even the people attending these conferences, don't have most of this stuff. They don't have like several spirit boxes just sitting around collecting dust, They don't have all of the different camera equipment, all of just the weird shit. I brought Sasquatch pheromone, like people don't have, you can't even buy that anymore. Like I think that
Yes.
company's out of business. Like their website, it does not work.
I forgot about the sass. I wanted to ask. I'm sure people smelled it, right? Is that I'm
Yes.
assuming. Did anybody get a boner?
I don't know. I
Oh,
wasn't checking for
you should
boners.
have been checking for
I should
boners.
have
What are you?
checked for boners. Fuck.
What?
Can't believe I wasn't checking for boners.
I can't either.
Next time. Be like, look,
Anyway,
all right, I just want to preface this by saying it is not sexual at all, but I am going to have to feel you for a boner.
you just, I mean, just at minimum, peek up over the table, right?
Right.
Smell this and keep your hands away from your crotch. Uh, spread your legs a little bit. Pull
Yeah,
your shirt
right.
up for me. Yeah, I mean, my God, so disappointed, Tobias. I thought you were a real life investigator. I
No,
don't know.
well, I dropped the ball. I dropped the ball.
Anyway,
Yeah, that fucking rank too. By the way, it's horrible. I Nobody was allowed to open the jar. I said that about 100 times this weekend. Anytime anybody approached the jar, I was like, you can smell it, just don't open it.
wait,
Whatever
so
you do not
they were
fucking
just
open
smelling
it.
the outside of the jar?
That's all you need. You can smell it with the jar closed from like 3 feet away. No, I'm dead serious.
If you have any local businesses that you hate, just hide an open jar of Sasquatch
I'll
pheromones.
bring it to Mothman Festival if you want, and you can smell it, and you
I'm
don't have to
curious.
open it. It's
Yeah.
fucking horrible. The day before we left last Thursday, because I had this shit for I don't know 2 or 3 years at least, no longer. Like these are oh god, they got to be. I've had them longer than we've had our house, so they got to be like 4 years old, right? And I was like, man, I wonder if they've lost their potency. Like maybe they don't even smell anymore. So I don't even think about it. I like grab the jar, open it up, like stick my face right in it, and like immediately I knew I fucked up. I was just like, oh no, I fucked up. And like my nose started hurting, like my eyes are watering. Like the scent just like carpeted our entire fucking dining room and
Oh my
kitchen. Emily
gosh.
walks into the room and she's just like, what did you do? I was like, I wanted to see if this fucking Sasquatch pheromones were still working. Like I'm weeping as I say it.
You call your mom, like, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Right? Please forgive me. Please forgive you, little boy.
I mean, we will be in the woods, so I mean, if you want to bring them,
I don't
just
know. I
saying.
just so you could smell it to see. But yeah, you can't open the jar unless we're outside. And even then, people will complain. I've used these fucking things once to bait this, like one of our trail cams we set up in the Kettle Moraine. And even outside, I opened the jar and people are like just dying. Anybody standing within like 6 feet of me was just like, that is the worst thing I've ever smelled.
Even to this day, if you go out to that very spot.
Right. You just see like a bunch of dead plants and shit surrounding it.
You're like, that's it. That's the place.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point that I was kind of getting at about it all, is the best way to turn people into believers is to, of course, demonstrate. And I think that was a really great idea and a great opportunity. Now, did you have a bunch of non-believers around you? I don't know. I wasn't there. Um,
It's haunted America, so no.
right.
I will say this though, it's the last fucking thing I expected to have happen. I
Yeah.
really thought that like, I again, I didn't think anything was going to happen. I thought we were at a crowded fucking conference, and so I would just I would just give these people an idea of what it was like to do this, but I didn't think we would really be doing it. But boy, that's not what happened. You know,
Yeah. Yeah,
we
definitely.
were in it.
Very cool. That's very exciting. Wow.
Yes. Yeah,
That's
it
good.
was something else.
That's some good news.
We
That's
did it.
very neat. Now, see, I interpret the laugh at the end of like because again, I don't think ghosts are dead people. I think it
I
was
know. I was waiting for this to come up.
just an alien fucking with you or something, some type of
Maybe.
ultra terrestrial. And then at the end, he's like, "Ha ha ha! They bought it."
I thought of that. I did. And I don't know. I can't say it wasn't, you know.
Stuck your fist
Um
up in the air, you asshole.
I know, right? No, like that obviously because of the research that I do, that was something that occurred to me. I just don't have any definitive evidence that that is the case, and all everything else pointed to something else. So
Mhm.
I don't know.
Well, I think the fun thing about it is that whether it was a spirit and you helped them go, or it was some type of interdimensional something or the other, and it played a sick prank on you, both of those things are anomalous.
Right?
So something fucking weird happened.
Yeah, it's paranormal no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
agreed.
I get it. But no, very cool. Very cool. Wow. Interesting. Well, a couple of our other friends from the show were somewhere else this weekend. They were in a little town called Murpheysboro in
Yes.
Illinois, which isn't far from where you were, I don't think.
No, it's not far at all. Actually, that's where Kevin Nelson was.
Yep.
I tell you I actually got to meet him in person for the first time at Broadhead at Spirits in the spring.
Oh, I
Yeah,
did
because
not
well,
know
we had
that.
talked online a bunch before that, but he ended up going with Chad to like I don't know keep him company or work at his table or whatever. And I'm
Sure.
sure he's selling his books too while he's there.
They co-write
Um,
some books together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like the big buddy monster,
Yeah.
for instance. But yeah. So I finally got to meet him in person. We didn't get to hang out like I did with Chad and David this past weekend, but we did finally meet in person, so that was great, and hopefully we'll get to hang out again soon.
Yeah, I met him and Chad for the first time at the Mop Band Festival. Not last year, I don't think. I think the year, maybe it was last year. Sometime, one of these years. Who's counting?
I don't know who can
um,
keep track.
but both very great people, and Kevin Lee Nelson. Yeah, well, we also didn't get to hang out. I'd love to hang out with them. I'd love to go investigate with Chad and Kevin. This is a challenge to both Chad and Kevin to let's see if you can hang. Let's
Move to Wisconsin, and we'll all do it together.
we'll all go together. I know, right? That's that just makes sense. Um, but yeah, they were all at the not they, but the other half of Chad Lewis, Kevin Lee Nelson was at the Big Muddy Monster Festival, which is a thing. I think it went well.
Yeah, this is
I don't.
the second year, I think.
Is it only well, I
Yeah,
can't sneeze. See, I had some sneezing going on. Anyway, um,
adorable.
poor guy. He was not a fan of it. Anyway, um, I kind of got the feeling that this had been going on for a little bit longer because let me tell
Yeah,
you, all
maybe
of
it
the
has.
research that I did for I don't think it has. I think you're right about that. All the research I did for this episode was pulled straight from their website, the city's website.
Oh yeah. They have all of the original fucking police reports and shit up on there where you can just go read them if you want. It's
It's
great.
fucking legit.
Yeah.
Like, these people are doing their monster right. And that's not to say that, like, everybody else sucks or whatever. They don't, but it's like, if you're going to mention your local because some people will mention their local monster. The Loveland Frogman, for example, he's mentioned on the city's website. But they don't have fucking police records. And that he was seen by a police officer, you know? The Mothman, Point Pleasant, West Virginia doesn't have a fucking Mothman section. Well, they might have a section, but uh, it doesn't have nearly the information that this has. So good for Murpheysboro for really fucking doing the damn thing because they're doing it right, and that's kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this particular instance because it's not so much just a creature. Like, yes, it's like their version of Bigfoot or whatever, but it's an incident, right? That happened over the course of days.
Yes.
And man, they handled this to the fucking gold standard. Like, fucking Lauren Coleman couldn't have done it better, you know? So,
Sure. Well,
I'm
I
like,
mean, that's either a compliment or not, depending on your opinion of Lauren Coleman.
that's true.
But fair enough.
you know, no, nobody, I don't think, could have investigated this better than their local police department. That's for sure. And we're kind of going to get into that. But before we do, Tobias, do you have any history with the big money? You're not close, but I mean, I think you're closer than I am.
Well, I mean, it's in Illinois, but it's pretty far south in Illinois. It's honestly pretty close to like it's not that far from Alton, really. So, like, which you mentioned. So, I'm relatively familiar with the area. Uh,
Hmm.
I don't have any history with it. Like, we didn't used to date or anything. So,
Well, now that you said that, I'm kind of. Are you sure?
I know, right? I'm just trying to hide it.
You do have those pheromones. I.
I know it's true. That's how I meet. That's how me and Big Muddy met. I gave him that nickname actually. But gross. Anyway, um, no, I this is one that I had heard about for some time, but my knowledge of it was really just as another in a seemingly endless string of like batshit crazy 1970s Bigfoot sighting flaps.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
Yeah. No. Agreed. I think I sat down and kind of dug into it a while back, and I didn't know why I had put it. So like I have a running list of show topics, and I put it on there at some point, and I didn't really know why. I think it's because I thought, well, maybe there's some UFO element or something to it. There are a couple of strange things about it that I will kind of go over a little bit, and
right.
of course, like I said, just the fucking detective work that took place here, man, it blows me away. That's some good detective work. So let's get into it. So the Big Money Monster starts off. We'll go back to the first sighting here, June 19th of 1973. So of course, this is the anniversary week time period of these incidences. The local police get a call from a man stating that his some kids, their children, I think it was a woman, it might have been a woman, the mom calling, saying their kids saw a strange creature.
Oh, wait, wait,
So
wait, wait. So wait, June. Okay, sorry. I've not to interrupt, but June 19th.
June 19th.
If you're looking at that police file, and I believe that is the one that came from what is dude's name? Oh, okay. So yeah, Mrs. Ray Kells. That's June 19th, 1976.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it's 3 years after. So, like, the first quote unquote official Big Muddy Monster sighting is the June 25th, 1973 Lover's Lane sighting.
With
I
the
was thrown
couple.
off by that too, because I was like, man, every time you hear about this, people talk about it starting June 25th, 1976 with like the Lover's Lane thing. But here's this June 19th report, and then it finally fucking clicked. I was like, oh, wait, 1976. So there's like this
Ooh.
weird sighting that gets reported 3 years later that the police have to come out and still investigate and shit.
Well, then we'll talk about that one at the end.
Fair.
At the end of the sightings. Um, so what do you have as the first one? Because I guess I didn't put down the timeline, but I had the Cheryl Ray and Randy Creeth sighting as the first one. But there's two that happened that day.
Okay, so the very first one um, is almost midnight, June 25th, 1973. And there is a couple, Randy Needham and
Okay.
Judy Johnson. And
Hmm.
they are parked in this parking lot down by the river. And they're not married, and they're doing what people do when they park, right?
Listening
Uh,
to music.
yeah,
Listening to
just
On Wednesdays We Talk Weird.
yeah, I don't know, maybe holding hands, maybe. Better not be kissing. You can get
They
pregnant
better.
that way.
Yeah, that's how you get AIDS.
Right. Right. So, but anyway, yeah, so they're necking or whatever the fuck people did in 1973, and they hear this scream, and it's like this blood curdling scream, and so Randy is behind the steering wheel, and so he turns on the headlights or whatever, and his testimony is that he sees this fucking monster, right? This huge creature, 7 feet tall, that appeared to have light colored hair, matted with mud. It appeared to be walking on two legs and was coming towards his car. So it continued screaming, changing tones, and proceeding towards them. At which point, Randy like floors it and gets the fuck out of there. Now, if you read articles about this, people will talk about Judy seeing it too. But in the police report, she says that she heard the scream, but she didn't
Yeah.
see anything because it was too dark.
Right.
So
Yep.
I think people do a lot of half-ass fucking research in this
Yeah.
field and then write articles about it. But yeah, according to the police report, Randy's the only one who saw anything. But she did hear that scream. And so he takes off. They go straight to the cops, like first fucking thing they do. So the reason why this is important is because in 1973, like they're out there, they're not fucking married. Everybody knows what they're doing. Like, see, Randy's 19, Judy is 28. I think she was technically still married at the time, like estranged or going through a separation or something. So they were not supposed to be out there fucking getting down in his car, like they had reputations to consider. This was not going to look good for them. So for them to go to the cops, which makes this a matter of public record, it's going to get out. People are going to find out about what they were doing, means they were scared by something.
Yeah.
They were scared enough to be willing to risk their personal reputations to have this investigated. And it was investigated, like you mentioned. The cops took this shit seriously.
Yeah.
So a couple police officers go out there, and they find these tracks. These tracks are weird, because they're not like normal tracks. They're like 12 inches long, but only 3 inches wide. And they find them in the mud by the river, right? But like, what the fuck leaves tracks like that? 3 inches wide?
Yeah.
Like that's super, super skinny. That's just very unusual in terms of foot shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they find these tracks, and then while they're searching around that area, the police officers hear the fucking scream,
Yep.
you know? And they're
And,
not
and
having it.
and they had the couple was there with them,
Yeah.
and they said, "That's it. That's the creature."
Yeah. Absolutely. And so like none of them knew what the fuck it was, but they knew they didn't want any part of it, right? And so like I think at that point, um, they like ran back to the patrol cars.
Yeah,
You
they're
know,
like, "Yeah, we're gonna leave."
right?
But so this is where it gets weird, and I think that's kind of where the timeline thing is a little fucked up, and also getting your year wrong will do that. Sorry, guys, but genuinely on the same day, an hour, not even an hour, I think it was like 45 minutes before that happened. This thing was cited by a different couple. So I did go back and check the times to see which one happened first. So
Just after midnight, June 26, 1973, you have the couple sitting out on the porch. So just after Randy and Judy's sightings is when you have
is it June
Cheryl,
26th?
Cheryl and Randy.
Oh, it was just after.
Yeah. So theirs was just
Oh
after
my gosh, it
midnight,
was.
early morning, June 26th.
You're right. I am. Why don't they put this in chronological order
I
so that I
fucking
can
wish. It was
research
so
easier for my
confusing to go
podcast?
through. It was so confusing to go through. I was like, what is happening? And how many Randys live in this town, by the way?
They're all just very randy, you know? I mean,
Seriously, because it's Randy and Judy in the first sighting, and then
and
like
then
15 fucking minutes later, You've got
Randy
a
and Cheryl.
different Randy. You've got Cheryl and Randy again.
I think it's the same Randy. He just uses a different name for different girls.
He changes his last name to disguise himself instead of his first
Yeah.
name.
Yeah.
Oh boy. That
Anytime
Randy's
a
not too
baby
bright.
boy is born in Murpheysboro, they go, well, his name's Randy.
Mhm. Perfect.
um, it doesn't matter. These all pretty much happen on top of each other. Fuck the dates and times. Who cares? But I like this one because I feel like, and probably for the same reason why we had some confusion here, I feel like a lot of people, when they're reporting on these stories, mix these two stories together. And because that was kind of how, like when I was reading about it, how it had read was that some of the information that was being shared was mixed together. But the first sighting, of course, you've got the creature. The description I feel is important. So we'll kind of talk about the Randy and Judy sighting.
Right.
He described it as being, it was, white with matted fur. It was covered in mud.
Right. Which is important.
It is important.
That's
And
going to come up
so,
again.
well, because it's called the Big Muddy Monster. I mean, if there's no mud, what are you even doing with your life?
Well, the river that goes by there that
It's the Big Muddy River. Yeah.
intersects with the Mississippi. Oh, and of course, now it was my turn to be wrong about the time. So you've got okay, so you've got Judy and Randy. They have their sighting just before midnight, June 25th.
The very
10
next night.
12
Yeah.
p.m. the next day, June 26th. That's when Cheryl and other Randy have their
See?
sighting when they're sitting outside on Cheryl's parents' porch.
It's the same Randy. I'm telling you. That's the mystery right there.
Yeah, right.
Um,
It's just a monster in like a baseball hat, sunglasses.
well, let's talk about what happened. So Cheryl and Randy are hanging out on the porch there, outside, doing what people do on porches, listening to on Wednesdays We Talk Weird. And all of a sudden, a creature emerges there from the tree line. And they were pretty upset by it. This creature comes out, and it is white or cream colored. They're not really sure. They couldn't tell. It's dark. It's about 7 to 8 feet tall, maybe 300 to 400 pounds. I guess he was on a scale to know. Bipedal, of course. And it just kind of like fucking mills around and then fucks off into the night. Don't you love the way I recant stories?
I mean,
So modern.
that's how it usually goes, though. You know, they
It
were
is,
close to
yeah.
it though. Like they
They
said, they were
were.
like 30 or 40 feet away, close enough to smell this musky odor.
Yeah.
Um,
Randy said he was like trying to kind of approach it.
right.
This is why I think it's the same Randy, because he already saw this creature.
It's true.
Um,
He found himself strangely attracted to that musky odor.
he loved him some Bigfoot pheromones. And
It's just me luring him into the bushes with fucking Sasquatch pheromones so I could steal his wallet.
with a white sheet on like a classic ghost.
Yes, a fucking Scooby Doo villain.
You just threw some mud on it first to try to
Yes,
disguise it.
that's what I do.
On stilts, of course. Um,
Of course.
yeah, and just like these things happen, and I've had people that like relay experiences to me, and they're like, "Well, I saw this thing, and then that was it. There's nothing else to it." Most of the time, that's how this happens, right? You
Yeah,
just see it, and there's nothing else.
yeah. It like stands
um,
there, waves awkwardly at you, and then you just like it's weird. So you break eye contact and wander off in different directions.
yeah, I was wondering. I mean, the pursuit there. I don't know what caused them to attempt to kind of get closer to it. I mean, I guess because it's now or never, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
just want to check it out. They were
it's
curious.
weird. But of course, they go into the house. They're very scared, and then I believe it was Cheryl's mom who called the police.
Yeah. So yes, keep in mind, Cheryl and Randy are both 17, so
So
they're
very
high
young.
school students.
Interesting. I wonder what they were doing on the porch. Anyway,
Well, they were on the
um,
porch of her mom's house, so probably just hanging out.
yeah,
I
yeah,
would guess.
it might have been innocent. You don't want to know what I was doing on porches at 17, but
Fair.
anyway, so the police come out, and of course, they inspect the area, and after their night of getting prints from the other sightings, these are, I believe, the same officers, or at least one of them, I believe, was. He comes up a lot in this. Well, no, this I don't think he was there. That's okay. It doesn't matter. but they all know about it, right? What's going on here? So they inspect the area a little bit. They did find a little path and like the brush of the woods that indicated that something had been kind of walking all over it, kind of making its own path.
Right.
And they get the bright idea to, well, let's do this. Let's get a police dog out here and have him track, the area and just let's see what we find.
Sure.
So they do. They have a canine come out, and he is a very good boy. We know that for a fact. And he starts sniffing around the area, and he definitely touches on something. So he starts kind of taking them off in the direction that the couple had seen the creature, disperse to. And they're kind of going all through the woods, and periodically they would come across some grass that had like a black substance on it. And the biggest reason why this was kind of notable is because like the dog would hit on it, like as if
Mhm.
indicating that that's the same scent that it's been following. So whatever this black substance was at one point a part of the creature. Now the police officer, which I think was Officer Nellis, who was
Yeah.
leading the dog,
Nellis was
um,
at the sighting the previous night.
the
He
first
was
one.
one of
Okay,
the investigating
that's what
officers.
I thought. Yeah, he
Yep.
was kind of here the whole time. But he actually was brave and touches the substance and kind of rubs it on his fingers, and he says it was like a black weird substance.
They call it slime in the police
Yes,
report.
yes, he does say slime, which is interesting. That's very odd. But of course,
They say slime a lot. They use the word slime like 5 times.
they like slime.
Just saying.
They're into that.
They couldn't think of a
Um,
better word is all I'm saying. So, like,
just
picture
yeah,
slime,
yeah,
and you're
slime.
there.
It was star jelly.
Black star jelly, yes.
There is black star
And
jelly.
Officer Nellis gave birth to a beautiful 50-pound alien jellyfish and like 10 months later.
It was wonderful. Um, yeah. So anyway, so they're going all through, and they had actually the dog had kind of tracked. I mean, down by the river and all around the area, and they came upon a barn at some point, and the dog refused to go into the barn. It was like fucking not having any of it. Was a happy camper all the way up until they get to this barn, and they pretty much stopped right there, and that drives me insane. That is like the one flaw of this whole story is that the officer, they all just left. They're like, oh, okay, well that's it then.
Well, he tries to force the dog into the
Yeah,
barn, and the
yeah,
dog is not having it. Like the dog just comes running out immediately.
yeah.
But you're right. Like at that point, it's like, well, fucking burn the barn down or something. I don't.
Something
Can't you
like
call in the National Guard? Don't you have that kind of authority, Officer Nellis?
go in the fucking barn yourself, figure it out. But I guess he's smart, right? He is by himself. I believe he was by himself with the dog.
Yeah,
Doing this tracking. It doesn't really say in the police report, but I mean, that's probably if he didn't himself go in the barn, that's probably why. Which is a wise decision. If your fucking German Shepherd is freaking out, I get it.
sure.
But doesn't go in. So there was actually a report that had come out. From the neighbors about this situation that said that their son had been about 15 minutes before this happened, which is pretty late at night, but whatever. I'm not one to judge, I guess. Was playing outside and actually came in abruptly and said that he had seen a ghost out in their yard. And they kind of just played it off until they realized that the police were researching the area because the young couple had seen this creature.
Right.
And they think that that's what their son might have seen, which was ghost is an interesting description.
Well, it's big and it's pale, you know. So
Doesn't look like anything, yeah, that he's
yeah.
ever seen, but okay, all right, we'll buy it. So the time discrepancies from here aren't going to happen anymore because I think that I got my shit together at this point. So
Okay.
yeah,
So yes, we've managed to, I think, nail most of the pertinent details and get them
yes,
correct. So we can go over just a quick timeline. So just before midnight, June 25th, 1973, you've got Randy Needham and Judy Johnson. They are down by the river. They hear a scream. They see a monster, or Randy sees a monster. Judy just hears it. They take off get the police. Police come back. One of them is Officer Nash. Now, Officer Nash is also going to be at the sighting the next day, um, with Cheryl and Randy, the two high schoolers, out on the porch. They call in an officer from Carbondale. That's that Nellis I talked about. He's the guy
Gotcha.
with the fucking dog that won't go into the barn. And here we are.
And here we are. So, and those are probably, once you look up this creature, that's what you're going to get mostly. There were some sightings that did continue to happen. Of course, the interesting part of those two sightings is the fact that it's not just the people reporting the sightings that are having weird things happen. It's also the officers that are having weird things happen.
Yes.
Um, and so there, it just kind of, holds a little bit more water. So June 27th comes, and that is the very next day, right? So now we got 3 days in a row of sightings again. You've got two siblings and then a neighborhood kid. It's Michael and Melinda Mifflin, and then Karen Gruber are playing outside. They're all younger kids. I don't know exactly how old they were. I don't
You
think
got
the
to
police
mention their
force that.
dad's name, though. What was their dad's name? It's the best. Can I say it?
Yeah, you say it.
Merle.
Merle
Merle
Mifflin.
Mifflin.
Oh,
Yes. I
jeez.
fucking love that guy. I don't know him, but I
I
think he's
love
great.
Merle. Well, and he's the one calling the police because these are young kids, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, my kid's done seen something." My son Randy and my daughter Melinda
What is it,
saw
Merle? What did they see?
Merle.
Love it.
Yeah, old Merle. And so they all kind of described a very similar creature that everybody else had been seeing. Right? It's light in color, I believe. No, in this sighting, was it light in color? It
Well,
wasn't. It
it
was black.
depends. So yeah, Michael talks about it. Okay, so he says the monster was 6 feet tall,
Yeah.
weighing between 5 and 6 tons, and
What?
yeah, and having a black furry coat. I mean, these kids, they don't list the kids'
Ages.
ages,
Yeah.
which
They
is
They
unusual.
sound significantly younger to me
Yes,
because Karen described the creature as big, tall, and fat.
right. I
And
think these are little kids.
yeah, and I love that. I love that about Karen. She just went straight to the point.
Sure.
Good for her. But yes, I agree. 5 to 6 tons is also like, I'm not fat shaming the big money monster. Okay, I'm just saying like that's a little much.
Right.
you know? But yes, probably very young kids. But they again report a very similar type of creature aside from the color. But if it's like spending the last couple of days slathering itself in mud, who knows? Um,
Well, that's
so
exactly it. Like it could just be that,
dirty.
yeah, that it's just dirty. And that's the kind, like, that's pretty normal. I think having that kind of descriptive variance between witnesses is not that big of a deal.
No. And then of course it was like dripping oil or something everywhere, slime all over. So maybe the
Yeah.
slime soaked up the skin. Who knows? We'll kind of talk about that a little bit more in a bit. But yeah, so again, another sighting. The proximity of all these sightings is all, I mean, pretty close to each other. So roughly within the same area, enough for this creature to have simply walked to the next one. Um, and then, of course, you've got the July 7th sighting from the reported by Bert Miller, who owned a carnival that was there in the area.
Yeah.
I
Miller
didn't
Carnival.
Miller Carnival. I didn't list all the people who had seen the creature, but he had several carnival workers who reported seeing this creature not once, but twice. And in that instance, they kind of one of them or a couple of them were kind of near the ponies, and they heard the ponies kind of get upset, and they're like, "Okay, well, what's going on?" They go around to check on it, and there's the creature. They kind of the way that they describe it is not that it was like trying to attack one of the ponies or steal one of the ponies, or they kind of seemed like it was like fascinated by the ponies, which I thought was interesting. Like I'd never seen one before, and it
Well,
was
this
like,
was at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So
yes,
I feel like the monster might have just come from the bar, and he
okay.
wasn't quite sure what was. Maybe he was so drunk he just thought he had never seen a pony before, or maybe it was just like, what are you little guys? What are you doing? Where's the after bar?
I
You know what I
mean,
mean?
have you ever heard of Mr. Hands?
Yeah. Gross.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
Don't Google it. Um,
No, don't never Google it.
never
In fact,
Google
if
it.
you're listening, you have to go get blackout drunk right now so you don't remember this.
Right, you gotta forget that. No, something. It was very odd, but like I said, the fact that it didn't seem aggressive. Actually, the only time it ever really seemed aggressive was potentially in that first sighting with Randy and Judy, where it was like charging the car.
Oh yeah, he's like screaming at him. Fucking
Right.
settle down, big muddy monster. God
I
damn.
mean,
Just out
but
here,
maybe
trying to make
he,
out.
right. He he changed his approach. Right. He was like, "Oh shit, I scared those people," and he
Can
like
you
chilled out.
imagine
You know.
getting cock blocked by the big muddy monster too? Man, fuck that guy.
You'd
You
remember that
know?
forever.
Yeah, who does that? It's not like you can get out and fight him. He's a monster.
All right. What are you
You
gonna
just
do?
gotta, yeah, you gotta put up with it. It's like, man, fuck you, monster. You're
So
stuck.
probably they went and parked in the police station parking lot, and Randy's like, "Well, can we finish first?"
Right? What's he gonna do? He's gonna have blue balls all night because of this fucking
Yeah,
monster.
I'm all hyped up. We got to do this before I don't want to go in there with a boner.
Right.
Poor guy.
That's what
Uh,
sold his story. They're like, no way a dude's gonna come in here with a full-on raging boner and tell us that story
yeah, it was
if
Randy
it's
that gave
not
it away.
true.
They're like, what you got in your pants there, son? Well, if you just listen to me, tell my
Right.
story.
It's called a truth boner.
The boner of truth. Uh, okay, well, so so it takes off. I think it gets spooked. Well, it doesn't really get spooked. They went to go grab their boss, and they're like, "Hey, come look at this creature." And by the time he gets down there, it's not there. And so they're like, "Okay, well, it was here." And he's like, "Yeah, whatever." It
Right.
didn't say anything about disbelief. It just simply said it wasn't there. But I assume the owner was like, "Yeah, probably not. You guys are fucked up. You are carnies. Go back to bed." So then, a few hours later, they hear the commotion happening again. The ponies are getting upset. They're trying to kind of break away from the little areas they're tied up at. And there's the fucking creature again, curious as ever, wants to know about these ponies. And so again, they go find their guy, and they bring him back, and it's gone.
That's not a good look. If you're
It's like
waking
the
your boss
fucking
up at 3 a.m, because it was like an hour later. So the first one's at 2, like the
yeah,
first sighting's at 2 a.m. With this thing just hanging out by the ponies, which I got to tell you, that's what I would do if I see a bunch of ponies tied up. Do you think I'm going to try to pet them? The answer is yes, every time.
absolutely every
Um,
time.
yeah, I will be like, which one of you wants to be my best friend? And we will go on whimsical adventures. Like this is happening.
Right. I mean,
And yeah, then an hour later, this thing comes back. It's trying to fucking pet the ponies again or whatever. And yeah, dude has to run, get his boss, comes back, it's fucking gone.
yeah,
Unbelievable, this monster.
yeah.
What a
Just
dick,
he knew what he was doing.
right?
So, of course, the owner called it into the local police. Now, this is, again, to mention, this is July 7th, as some time has passed from the
Oh yeah.
original sightings. So people are kind of starting to know about it a little bit more.
Oh, it was a known
Um,
thing at this point. Yeah.
right. I mean, it's a little up for debate. I mean, of course, a carnival first said, so actually, it didn't happen June 7th. They said it had happened a couple of days, I can't remember the date, but a couple of days before that.
Oh, before July 7th. Yeah.
Yeah, and that he was calling it in a couple days later because he was afraid that it would be bad for Bennett for business. A fucking Bigfoot is never bad for business for a carnival. I know. You know how many Bigfoot I've seen at carnivals?
So many.
So many. That's like where they go. You know? It's like their only job that they can get in America is carnival work.
Yeah. Right.
So it's again up for debate on whether or not this happened. Carnival workers, just because they work at carnivals, doesn't mean that they're exempt from high strangeness or cryptids or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah. So this
But
says the police report saying that they had the sighting at 2 a.m. July 7th and then 3 a.m. July 7th. And then they reported it at like 6 o'clock that evening.
that Oh, okay. So it was just a couple of hours, not a couple of
Well,
days.
I mean, that's more than a couple hours. I mean, that's like
The
what,
next day.
15 hours later.
Yeah, gotcha.
Like they had all day to call the police and like waited what until they were off work. I mean, it just seems
Yeah,
weird.
probably. That checks out for carnies.
Yeah.
You know, I,
But
I
they could have called the police right away. So, like, okay, for instance, like Randy and Judy, they weren't like, you know what, let's go home and sleep on it. No, they were like, this is fucking the craziest shit we've ever seen. We have to go to the police right fucking now.
yeah,
And
right
that
now.
was everybody else until
That's
this.
true. Yeah. And the
So,
police did, of course they came out, they looked around. There was no physical evidence to be had in this instance. But also take into consideration Bigfoot type creatures do tend to have some type of history when it comes to horses. You've got stories of people, you know, seeing these things, fucking around their horse barns, or braiding the hair of horses. It's kind of seems to like a popular pastime of Bigfoot people.
you know what's interesting about that? Excuse me. Now that you mention it, is that braiding horsehair is also something commonly attributed to fairies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. I do find that really interesting, actually. But that is something that allegedly tends to happen, right? They'll come out and their horse is all braided up, and there's big footprints all around. Whatever. Um, it's just what they like. They like horses, and I don't blame them. You know,
Horses are pretty cool.
they're pretty cool. So then on to we'll kind of talk about the one I tried to include at the beginning here, but I was wrong about that happened 3 years later. Interesting then that it happened 3 years later. It was almost right at the anniversary of all this happening.
And you know
Um,
how you can tell it happened 3 years later is in the police report. The witness specifically refers to it as the big muddy monster, which by
it
that
does. Yeah.
point it had come to be referred to popularly in media.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That does make sense. Was it the same police officers in that police report? Was Nash there?
There's Nash. Yeah, Nash.
Okay.
Fucking Nash. That guy gets around. He's on. He's in like every
So
one of these sightings. That dude investigated everything here.
this is his his bread and butter.
I
Um,
mean, like it's not a big town. The population at the time was like 10,000 people, maybe, which is
yeah.
it's not tiny, but it's not metropolitan either.
Well, you ever get like a really good customer service person, but you have to call back and you're like, "Can I talk to you again?"
Yeah,
Um, that's because they know your story already. So it would make sense to kind of try to keep the same people and the same type of story.
Nash has to work
Um,
the fucking monster beat. Yeah,
that's
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 how it
his
goes.
calling. So a mother calls in, claiming that her child and their friends had witnessed a strange creature, the big money monster. Now, the children in question, there were three of them: Ricky Kellis, David Taylor, and Russell Ward. No Randys this time.
What? One
I
of their
know.
middle names was Randy. Had to be.
David, Randy, Taylor. Yeah, that checks out. Anyway, they're all between the ages of like 10 to 13, right? There's 10, 11, and 13. They reported seeing, I think this is interesting. I mean, skeptical because of the time frame and the fact they called it the big money monster, but they reported seeing a gray 7 to 8 foot tall creature that had large ears. And that was kind of a new one. None of the other reports mentioned that. Of course, it was standing along the tree line there, and they didn't stick around long enough to ask him about the ponies. So, now these kids, considering their ages and this being 3 years later, I mean, the youngest would have been 7, and then the other youngest would have been 10 at the time, or, the oldest would have been 10 at the time that the original sightings were happening. Do you think it was them? Was it them that called it the big money monster, or was it the mom that referred to it as that?
Oh boy, I don't know. I would assume the person calling it in. Oh my god, you know what's kind of fucked up is I'm literally, and I swear I looked at all of these before. So I'm looking at these police reports again, and do you remember Merle's sighting?
Yeah.
That was in '76 as well,
Really?
June
Wow.
27th, 1976.
We really dropped the ball here. We should just not podcast ever again.
No, I thought I had this all straight in my head.
I did too. I'm a little taken. I feel like, obviously, during the time that we've been having this conversation, there has been some type of time diversion. A lot of people call it the Mandela effect, and I think that's what
Seriously.
happened. It's not
Yeah,
that we
no.
could be wrong. We weren't wrong. We were right.
Right, because you can see in the Merle police report that yeah, that's where they're referring this thing as the big muddy monster. So presumably what had happened was
Oh,
Merle when he called in was like, yeah, they saw the big muddy monster because that's what people were referring to it as by that point. Um, but that would have been almost a month
you're right.
after the sighting we were just talking about, which was June 19th, 1976, with Mrs. Ray Kells calling in. Did you notice how weird it is, by the way, that anytime a woman calls the police in one of these police reports, it's just Mrs. her husband's name?
Yeah, well,
That threw
that
me off, you know?
that is how it goes.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, but what's her name? You know, she
Right.
has a fucking first name.
Yeah, she's a person. Who is she? When I was typing up my notes, I don't think anybody else is going to get as much joy out of this as I did. But when I was
Uh,
typing out the last name Kells, it auto corrected it to Smells. That was pretty cool.
yeah, in your face, Mrs. Ray Smells.
Ray Smells. Yeah, yeah.
No,
You know, you
she's
could,
having her identity taken away by the man. Like,
yeah, she
this
is.
feels like punching down to make fun of her name at this point.
Well, in all fairness, it was her son's name, but
Oh yeah, fuck that kid.
no, right? Fuck that kid. Fuck them kids. That
True.
10-year-old kid. Fuck him. Anyway, no, you're right about that. The Merle sighting was also 3 years late. That's very interesting.
I know. So okay, so let's go back over this timeline one more time.
Yeah,
So
rewrite the
we've got
timeline.
we've got June 25th, 1973. Randy Needham and Judy Johnson down by the river, hear a scream. Randy sees a monster. They drive off, get the police involved. Police come back, search the area, find footprints, hear a scream. They take off. The next day, June 26th, 1973, you've got Randy and Cheryl sitting out on her parents' porch. They see a fucking monster at 10:12 p.m. Once again, the police are called out. Officer Nash is there for both sightings. They get a guy in from Carbondale. Officer Nellis, he brings his German Shepherd patrol dog, and they try to track this monster down. Uh, the dog is seemingly following its scent via black slime that it has left in its wake. Tracks it to a barn where the dog at that point doesn't want anything to do with it. Won't go into the barn. When it's forced into the barn, it just runs out. And so that's the end of that. Presumably the monster escapes. Okay. So then uh, days later, then we
Mm.
have the carnival sighting. So that's July 7th. So that's almost, what's that, like 10, 11 days later. Um, you've got the Miller Carnival sighting, where at 2 a.m., carnival workers see this creature by some ponies they have tied up, and then they see it again at 3. And then nothing, presumably, there were probably other sightings, but in terms of documented police investigated sightings, nothing until June 19, 1976, when Mrs. Kells calls in to report her children's sighting. That is followed at the end of the month. I'm sorry. Yeah, like 8 days later, towards the end of the month, June 27th, 1976, with the Merle Mifflin sighting, where he's reporting what his children had seen. I think that's it. I think we've got it straight now.
Yes, that is Jesus. I mean, for only being a handful of sightings, man, we
I
really
know. Most
fudged the bucket there.
well, it's just the most
Um,
complicated 5 sightings, and none of them are in order.
no, they're not. Well, but that's it. Those are the sightings. That's what's happened to date. And well, I mean, there could be some people that maybe went unreported and things like that. we'll touch on the aftermath really quick, because this fucking story blew all the way up. And the police station there was receiving tons and tons of like fan mail for the Muddy Monster. It was,
Oh yeah, kids would write in for their science classes and shit.
and people were
Amateur
sending in.
investigators.
There's like a letter because all of this is in like the yeah, all of this is in like the case file. I didn't go through and read all of them. I just kind of skimmed them, and I'm sure Tobias. There's like 80 pages of just
A lot
letters.
of it's in handwriting I couldn't even read, so
Right.
doesn't really matter.
But again, this is all available right on the city of Murpheysboro website. Go check them out if you want to. But like one of them I saw was like from the UK, and that was interesting. That's interesting that it got that big of a reach.
Right.
This is the 70s. I mean, we're kind of, to my knowledge, I mean, we're kind of past like the big booms of creatures, but I guess not. I mean, there were a lot of things that happened in the 70s. There's always stuff happening. But
Bigfoot was huge in the
in the
fucking
70s,
70s.
oh, I believe that.
And some of the people writing in reference some of the like big Bigfoot culture at the time. Like they'll reference like having seen the Legend of Boggy Creek.
Oh
And
yeah, that's
yeah, so
right.
like there is Bigfoot. Seriously, like now, yeah, most of the stuff like your Flatwoods Monster, Kelly Hopkinsville Goblins,
That's old
uh,
news. It's Bigfoot now.
yeah, that shit is mostly over. Like that kind of weird stuff. But 1970s, that was the decade of fucking Bigfoot. And
Yeah.
because I think it really got kicked off with the Patterson Gimlin film
And
in
67. Yeah.
67. Yeah, but that's at
Yeah.
the end of the 60s.
Yeah.
So like that takes off,
And then Boggy
and
Creek.
then yeah, and then you've got the entire decade of the 70s is just all Bigfoot.
Wow. So I mean, and it shows. I mean, again, like I said, there's just pages and pages of these letters to the police about just wanting more wanting more answers to things, or they're just curious, or they're just sharing their stories, or whatever. Whatever the case is. I mean, it really was a big deal. But I want to kind of circle back and let's do a little bit of fun time speculating. Let's look at some of the things here. Well, now that we got the timeline in order, I mean, you do have sightings that are within close proximity to each other and also happening almost on top of each other, right? As far as the days go.
Right.
Um, the physical description of this thing for the most part seems very much, well, like a Bigfoot. Even though, I'll tell you, there were some sketches of it, and that's also in the case files. They don't really describe like an ape or anything, which I found interesting. Like there's no real details about it,
One of
except
them,
except
I
it's hairy and covered in mud and it's tall and
yeah, I
you
think
know.
Randy and Judy in the first sighting referred to it as kind of like a gorilla.
Okay, well that makes sense. There's
Yeah,
something there. Okay.
but outside of that, yeah, it's basically just like this white, dirty, hairy humanoid
Thing.
with
This
not a
thing.
lot of other description.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of something else that was big in the 70s, the 1972 Momo sightings,
Oh yeah.
which were not that far away
Mhm.
because Louisiana, Missouri is just on the other side of the Mississippi. So yeah, like just a year before this kicks off, you've got Momo sightings, which again were huge, super fucking popular. Everybody had heard about them, attracted all kinds of attention and stuff happening not that far away from Murpheysboro, Illinois.
Well, and Momo has a very interesting feature to it that I take issue with. And
What's that?
here we go. Me and Momo are gonna go at it. Momo's got three-toed feet.
Oh yeah,
So some of the things here, and I'm not just, you know, I'm not part. I believe in a flesh and blood Bigfoot. Let's get that out of the way, right out of the gate. I think there's an undiscovered species of North American ape. I don't think it's as big as people think it is. I think we just mismeasure how big it is, and we'll kind of dig in more to Bigfoot theories when we have the dedicated Bigfoot episode. But when you have things like three-toed Bigfoot, okay, we're already struggling. We already had to have fucking Jeff Meldrum come in and fucking school us on the mid tarsal break, and that's how something so large and so bulky can actually not be fucking miserable like giant humans are. You can't have a three-toed Bigfoot. Like it doesn't work that way. you know?
Momo worked that way.
Momo worked that
Um,
way. And so, and I'm not saying it's because Momo's not a thing. I'm just saying that to me, that sounds like it is surrounded by some kind of supernatural element. So then you like you said, just kind of it not very far away, a little up north there. Now you've got this thing, and it's dropping fucking black slime all over the place
y-
and just kind of comes and fucking disappears into obscurity with no more sightings all the way until 3 years later, where suddenly it sprouts fucking ears.
which is basically the exact same thing Momo did, although Momo just never really came back. You know what else Momo had? Glowing, like red eyes.
Hmm.
And I almost forgot to mention this. Uh, okay, so other Randy and Cheryl also described glowing red eyes.
Yeah, which is fucking weird. And they did have, while the police did have like inconsistent footprints, which was weird. None of them I don't think were three-toed, so we'll get that out of the way.
No, they were weird. Like they were real weird looking, but I
Yeah,
don't remember them being described as three toes. And you can
right.
see photographs of them,
Yeah,
and it literally, to me, looks like somebody took like I don't know a hoe or a shovel or something and just whacked the mud with it.
it looks like a shovel mark to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just
It's
like
got
I
that
guess
curvature.
that's a footprint,
Yeah, I wouldn't immediately assume that's a footprint from an animal,
right?
but it definitely wasn't just. I mean, it was placed there by something, someone, somehow. But I just think that some of this stuff, it's real easy to go, oh, okay, well, obviously they saw Bigfoot. Bigfoot's just an animal, blah 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 blah. But it doesn't sit right with me to just say that and go, well, this was an animal that they saw and nobody ever saw again. I don't know. I mean,
Right.
and I don't really have great evidence except for, like I said, some of the. I mean, what the fuck is up with the slime situation? What's the deal with that? Wouldn't the police officer who touched it, put it on his hands? I'm sure you've rubbed mud on your hands. Wouldn't you know that, like, it's not, like, that's mud? And it wasn't. What the fuck was it?
One would think, yes. I don't know. That's a good question. I have no idea. Unless it's some kind of fucking river slime. I couldn't tell you. But yeah,
It's
you're
just
right. You would think that he would recognize it if it was just normal mud
like mud
or something.
residue. Yeah, I mean, or
Yeah.
poop, or, let's.
Right.
Let's be honest. It could have been poop, I guess, but he'd smell it, I suppose.
I love that he just touched it because like
Yeah, that's
that's
brave.
yeah, like under no circumstances in a horror movie do you ever touch random slime.
No, no, that's how you get fucking
You
all
get
kinds of things.
oh, you get infected or
Yeah,
eaten or something.
yeah, something
Nothing good ever comes out. Then you like
ever.
because you touch the slime and then you're like, oh, gross slime. You try to shake it off. You realize it's not coming off. The next thing you know, it's like crawling up your fucking arm into your
Right.
ear or something, and then you're a fucking slime zombie.
Yeah, that's how it happens every time.
Yeah, right.
you
No,
know,
thank you.
people know this. Um, yeah, I mean, I find that detail, and maybe it's not related to the monster at all, but you have the dog that's reacting to it as if it is. But maybe it's not. Maybe the dog was like, "What the fuck is this slime stuff?" I don't,
I mean, it could have been. I don't know. It could have been fucking saliva or something for all we know. You
Yeah.
know.
Right. Nobody thought to gather any of it, and until I mean, DNA testing wasn't really a thing at the time, but like,
Right.
why nobody put any in a bottle, to save for later. But that part is interesting. The dog's reaction to the barn situation isn't necessarily supernatural. Dogs are creatures with instinct. They know when not to go in a place.
Sure.
If there was a bear in that barn, that dog ain't going in there. That's fine. you know. Um, but like the variance in color, I think is interesting from the three, and maybe the sightings happened 3 years later were something completely fucking different. The ears is what gets me. Like, what kind of ears? What does that mean? They're just like giant human ears.
Oh, he's a little sensitive about those.
Oh, sorry,
Try
my
don't
bad.
stare at his ears, okay? He's self-conscious,
That's what he was using the mud for. He was like packing his ears down, like
right?
trying to glue them into place. But were they dog ears? Could this have been a dog man? I hate to be that person. To the dog man people, everything's a dog man, but they fucking describe visible ears. What does that mean? Again, could be a completely different creature, but I don't know. I don't know. Tobias, what do you think? What do you think about the big muddy monster?
Well, that is a great question. I don't know what to think. I guess what I will say is given the amount of immediate investigation by police officers after these sightings and the seriousness with which they were handled, it certainly seems to me as though these witnesses involved experienced something that they couldn't explain. And furthermore, something that was very unsettling, something that bothered them enough, frightened them enough for them to want to get the authorities involved. Especially in the case of Randy and Judy, where getting the authorities involved meant exposing a uh, shameful
Promiscuity?
affair.
Yes,
Yes.
there we go.
So yeah, I mean, they experienced something, and
Yeah.
and we like to poke fun and joke around on this, but like even Officer Nellis with that dog, it's not like the dog wouldn't go into the barn and they just left. Like they continued to search the area and
Hmm.
they came up with nothing. And I suspect that if there was a creature in that barn, it like slipped out the back or something.
Sure.
Um, and so they just weren't able to find it. And it's certainly interesting, as you pointed out, that these sightings seem to occur in waves, in just little flaps, basically. And we've seen that so many times,
Hmm.
with so many different monster sightings. Although with this one, I don't recall any associated like UFO sightings
Right.
or anything similar. That was something that people speculated about with Momo, was that it was a creature from space rather than some kind of undiscovered terrestrial primate species. Um, but uh, we didn't have that so much here. So it's difficult to say. I mean, do I think that there is a high likelihood that there is an undiscovered primate species living anywhere in the Midwest? I mean, I gotta say no. It's not highly fucking likely. There just aren't places for these things to live in the Midwest. Not anywhere in the fucking Midwest. Not in the most rural parts of the fucking Midwest. So where does that leave us? I mean, where could they be coming from? If it doesn't seem likely or even possible that we could have breeding populations of enormous undiscovered fucking apes living in the Midwest without being discovered, yet people are seeing something, then where does that leave us? Where the fuck are they coming from? And I don't know. That's the fucking $1 million question, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not enough here to sway me one way or the other. I do agree that the sightings themselves, they seem credible. There's no reason not to believe them. Nobody gained anything from this. Nobody knows who the fuck. I mean, we're barely even good at getting the timeline correct.
I swear to God, I don't know why that was so fucking difficult.
I don't either. And we both did it.
Yeah. Like I was so
Oh,
proud. I thought I had it all straight. And then I was like,
same.
oh, wait, no, that one was in 1976 too. You know?
Nobody's profiting off of this, and especially not the witnesses, right?
Right.
So here we are, and here's this situation. And what's interesting is that, like you said, with Bigfoot being such a popular thing at the time, like there wasn't like a huge boom of sightings after this caught media attention, which is unusual for this kind of thing, right? For something like to catch fire in the media like that and then not have a bunch of people come forward, that's interesting to me. I'm not saying that these things happen and people come out in droves to lie about their sightings, but well, they usually do. And I think you and I kind of both know that. I think the listeners probably kind of know that. Um, Not that everybody's sighting is inaccurate, but like this didn't have that element to it. It feels very genuine. And except for potentially the carnival workers, right? And we kind of talked about why.
Sure.
But it just it's very, and then it, like I said, it just fucks off into the night. Nothing else happens. Maybe there were more sightings and they just weren't reported because, like we've seen in flaps before, typically there's somebody who investigates this type of stuff anyway, not the police, right? Who they can report these things to. They didn't have that in this case. Maybe that's why. I don't know. But it is strange. And, I wonder, are we going to ever see this creature again? Is it going to make an appearance, especially now with the festival, right? The city is definitely yucking it up. And I love that for them. I think more
Sure.
cities should do that. But, are we going to see this happen again? I don't know. I hope so. I want I want more big muddy monster.
Yes. Well, I mean, I can tell you, people still report hairy humanoid sightings in the state of Illinois.
Oh yeah.
You know, that shit's not going anywhere.
Right.
People still report creature sightings down there, in that area in
Hmm.
southern Illinois, along the Mississippi River. There, it's a thing for sure. So, but they don't get publicized anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that common. You will occasionally see like a Bigfoot sighting that gets reported on like some radio station's website or
Sure.
something as a news story occasionally. But it's not like a matter for the police so much these days, and they don't get the kind of national coverage that gets a lot of attention anymore. It just doesn't happen. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. It's not as exciting as it once. Now people are like, "Oh yeah, Bigfoot again." Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
Bigfoot, they're
But
over it.
yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what happens back then between 73 and 76. I don't know. And we'll probably never know. But I think it's neat. And like I said at the beginning of this, I think that really giving those officers a pat on the back because they really did the most, and you won't hear that very often from my liberal ass self, but they really did a damn good job investing. They actually, I feel they thoroughly, checked out the area, looked for evidence, documented that evidence, and now they've put it all in a nice little case file that you can check out. So, very cool. Very cool. Any final words on the big muddy monster?
Oh boy, no, just more or less to agree with what you just said. I do think that this was remarkably well investigated by police officers at the time, and it's not something that I'm necessarily used to seeing, because often these cases aren't taken super seriously, especially by the police.
Hmm.
So yeah, I mean, they called the dogs out.
Yeah.
Like they really went all out to try to investigate this, and stumbled upon some compelling evidence that unfortunately has since been lost to time because this happened, 50 fucking years ago.
Yeah.
So, there's nothing remaining other than the witness testimony and the actual police reports. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I would encourage anybody out there to go ahead and take a look at the police reports. If you're really interested and you want to dig into this, then you should probably go out and get The Big Muddy Monster, which is a
Yes.
book by, who wrote that? Kevin Nelson, Chad Lewis, and I want to say there was one more person.
Um.
I'm gonna look it up because I'm gonna feel really bad if I don't.
Well,
So,
I'll fill the time for. I guess I could sit in silence for. Nate, put a clip in here somewhere. I don't know why. what, you know.
There we go. Yeah, so yeah, it was Chad Lewis, Kevin Nelson, and Noah Voss. That's who I was trying to think of.
Noah
Noah
Voss.
Voss.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yes.
Totally remember that front right from the jump, and didn't have to look it up at all. So,
Right.
well,
Kudos.
I mean, we did get the timeline wrong, so obviously we're not smart or anything over
Yeah,
here.
what the
So,
fuck? I'm gonna blame, I don't know, still being tired from Haunted America. Like, if this is the only episode of the show anybody listens to, they're gonna be like, that guy is the worst fucking
yeah,
investigator I
get your
have
shit together.
ever heard in my life.
They'll be so disappointed in us. Um, Probably in the book, The Big Money Monster. I'm sure they get it right. So just
Right. Well,
just just check that out.
we got there. I got the timeline nailed down. Like it's we did get the timeline correct by the end of the episode.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
still,
it is what it is.
right.
That's the grown up thing to do. You can admit that you're wrong, and we apologize for that. But can't be right all the time, right? Can't be perfect. I mean, jeez.
Sure.
Wow. Anyway, yeah, definitely, check that out more. Go to the festival. Somebody go to the festival. Let me know how it is. I'd be, or maybe you did go to the festival this past weekend. Let me know. How was it? Was it a good time? Did you see a big money monster? Um, Let me know if you did. We'll talk about it. But anyway, with that being said, guys, we will go ahead and we'll see you back here next Wednesday.